podcast for those who suffer, which is everyone.
It's a space where we can speak honestly about what it feels like to be in desolate places without losing hope.
Welcome to In the Thicket. Our episode this week is all about loneliness, which I'm sure everybody has experienced at one time or another, whether it's just periodic or whether it's more of a constant companion in some ways. So we talk a lot about our experience of loneliness, about even the definition of loneliness, and then also about things that have helped us in our loneliness to have some perspective and to find hope, even in the dark places where we do feel very alone. We hope this is helpful for you and that you'll find some light here as well. Hello, everyone. Welcome. How are you?
Erin, I'm just kind of like, this is not Erin's normal voice. What's happening right now? I mean, it's fine.
Also,
it's good.
I think that I spoke over you saying hello. I'm pretty sure I was like mumbling when you said hello.
Oh, really? I didn't even hear anything.
Oh, I did.
Well,
so I don't know if that means, but anyway.
Is that our act? Okay, is this our actual story? I guess I'm like crocheting while we talk. Well, we were just talking before we started recording. And I'm trying to crochet like dishcloths because I have a large ball of yarn and no dishcloths. So obviously.
I have also it's caught on here.
Is it another octopus?
It's a blanket.
You're making a blanket.
Yeah.
Oh, that's beautiful.
It's quite nice, eh?
That's lovely.
So
it's really cozy.
Just in case the world shuts down, Nicole and I will be able to be warm. And Rachel, you can come if you want.
You'll be warm. I'll be able to wash dishes.
That's right.
See, this is why we're so complimentary, because I don't want to wash dishes with a blanket because that's going to get very messy.
And I don't want to use a dishcloth as a blanket because that would be cold.
Exactly. Rachel, what are you bringing when the world shuts down?
I have a half-eaten cookie.
Oh,
I think that's
food
really valuable.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
That's great.
That's
okay.
Great.
That's good. That's fine too. I see behind you also have a mango. So that's
oh no.
I think it's a mini pumpkin.
It's a pumpkin.
Oh, well, we're not eating that because that's disgusting. So okay.
Or do you not like pumpkin?
No, I love pumpkins.
Okay.
But mini pumpkins, I'm assuming, would not. They're like just
good.
Not designed for
They're just designed to be visually appealing.
Pretty. I don't know. Are they?
I don't either.
Can you eat a mini pumpkin?
I don't know.
Anybody know?
Not into it like an apple?
I mean, ew. No.
Oh, no.
No.
Yeah, that's not.
I mean, you couldn't do that with a regular pumpkin anyway, so I'm not sure what I was thinking there. But,
I mean, they're
mini ones though.
Like
they just taste like pumpkin spice. Yeah, that's great. I want that picture of you, Rachel. Rachel's just holding up a mini pumpkin and pretending to bite it.
Yes, awesome. So anyways, welcome all you listeners. If this is your first time tuning in, I'm Erin. I am living currently in Ottawa, and that's important because why don't you introduce yourselves, ladies?
That was so loud. I hope.
No, you're fine.
Yeah. I'm Rachel, and I just landed in Texas like 5 days ago. So I'm in Texas. I'm just here for the next 3 months. I'm working remotely on my thesis, my master's in theological studies thesis. And I'm here with my sister who's getting married here in January.
Yay! Trisha Matthew, yay!
Yay, shout out.
And Nicole, where are you?
Nicole, so I'm in Nashville, Tennessee. So now this is so funny. We started with all three of us in Canada, and now two of us are in the States right now, and just Erin is in Canada.
I know,
which is crazy.
You guys left me here for the winter time. That was
really
a real jerk.
Hey, you know what?
I'm so sorry.
We're smart.
I know. That's okay. The plan is to go down to Texas for the wedding in January.
Right.
So I will.
Oh, that'll be good.
You'll be warm in January.
Get to see you on the way down, Nicole, and then
perfect.
And then be perfect in January.
Yeah. I did not mean to defect. It's just my life circumstances.
Just happened right now.
Not unhappy about it.
Totally. No, it's good.
That is great.
I am happy for you. I am happy also because I really do enjoy the first few snowfalls until it gets like a little bit annoying, you know, but then
Mhm,
yeah, so it's
mhm.
good. I'm all right to be here for that.
Yeah, full confessions. I was definitely watching like Prime. No, what is it? Lifetime and Hallmark
Oh
cheesy
yeah.
Christmas movies, like on repeat when I was packing because I was like, I won't be here for Christmas.
Oh
It's
yeah,
gonna be
you have to get the
hot.
snow feels
Yeah, to get
in.
all the And I
Yeah.
like Christmas. I'm one of those weird people who like really likes all the kitschy Christmas stuff.
I thought you were gonna say I'm one of those weird people who likes Christmas. Like, well, I think you might have a little bit of company with that.
Few
I'm not
others.
sure, but
Some people, yeah.
yeah, that's right. That's right.
That's
That's
funny.
right.
No, but
Oh
yeah.
my goodness. Okay, so the topic today, ladies, is a fun one. We're going to talk all about loneliness.
Alone. Yeah.
I know.
You guys know that song? I probably this. You know what? I'm gonna hum it because
Okay.
it's really old. Well, kind of old. There's like it's lonely. I'm Mr. Lonely. Remember that song?
I
It's
am
stuck
so
in my head.
lonely.
Yeah, that
I have
one.
nobody to call my own, or something like that.
Yeah, that's right. There's
Yeah,
no
yeah,
Mr.
yeah.
in that, is there? I think I just made that
I
up.
don't think so.
Yeah,
I think it's
sorry.
like lonely. I am so lonely.
I'm so lonely. That's
Maybe
right.
there's a
Mhm.
song that has Mr. Lonely in it though, because I feel
Maybe.
like that's
It's
familiar.
Wolfpack. I'm the mayor of Lonely Town, population 1. Oh yeah,
Nice.
go listen to that song.
so
Oh my
good.
gosh. Okay, we need to make a playlist of lonely
Of
songs.
lonely
to go along with
songs.
it.
Oh my
Totally.
gosh.
Oh my gosh.
Yes. Okay. So
You
if
only
you're
have to-
listening
Anyway.
right now, I'm going to write
Yeah.
that down.
People comment below on their favorite lonely song.
Oh yeah.
The other one so the lonely one that I was saying always gets randomly periodically stuck in my head. And the other one is you know the song like holiness, holiness is what I long. I literally switch the words. I don't know why in my head. And sometimes I go loneliness, loneliness. And I'm like, that's not the song. That's not
Okay,
the song.
while we're on the topic of like lonely misheard lyrics or something. So
Mhm.
my parents have this story. I guess they were playing music at mass years ago. Or no, they were at mass and someone else was playing music. And there was this song in like, I don't know, the 80s or something. And it was like, it starts, God alone, God alone. And it goes on like, he's the only one, da 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 da, whatever. Beautiful
Okay.
something.
Yeah.
But the person just like slightly got the lyrics wrong and they saying all alone. All alone.
Okay, great. Okay,
Anyway,
also in
that's
this theme
sad.
then of misheard lyrics, I would like to pay tribute to a certain Father Frank Portelli that many listeners may know. And Nicole laughed already because Father Frank has some great misheard lyrics. And my favorite is from, the song Chris Clarney, I think his name is. And it's You Get Me Beauty from Ashes,
Oh,
Beauty
yeah.
from Ashes. So that one,
Yeah.
he hears, You gave me beautiful rashes,
Oh,
beautiful
no.
rashes. So
No, he doesn't actually hear that. He just
Yeah,
thought it
that's
was
true.
funny. Yeah.
to ruin it for
Yeah.
everybody else. Yeah,
No,
yeah.
now that's
That's great.
literally all I'm gonna hear. Thanks, Erin.
Beautiful
And thank you, Father
rashes.
Frank.
Yes, you're welcome, all you listeners. That's like the classic of like, what is it? Like more of me or less of you? Like God is
Yeah,
greater,
yeah,
and
yeah.
I'm
Oh, yeah,
lower,
yeah,
where
yeah.
you switch it up and you're like, I am greater, God is lower.
Yes.
That's like that's the wrong lyrics, but
Yeah.
Right.
yeah,
But it's like
yeah.
somehow it's really easy to make that mistake and everyone does. And you're
Yeah.
like, oh no,
Yeah.
what have I
Yeah.
done?
Not what I meant. Yeah, no,
Yeah,
totally true.
that's right. Yeah, totally.
So
Totally.
loneliness.
Okay, those are good. So yes, we will definitely make a post with a playlist. You can also tell us what your misheard lyrics are, which are
Yeah.
the most fun
Yeah,
that
if you-
you've had.
If you're listening right now and you have like, you're like, oh, I have a song. Go on our Instagram page and just like send us a message. And we'll put it on our playlist.
Yeah.
absolutely.
Oh yeah.
Sweet. Awesome. Sweet. Sweet. So coming back then to this topic of loneliness.
Like we're all just like avoiding it slightly, you know?
Yeah,
Maybe.
I know. We are. We're like a little
fun things.
uncomfortable. I know. It's a podcast on suffering, but when you talk about loneliness, you're like, oh, I don't want to talk about
Yeah.
That's funny. It's also
So
funny that we don't
interesting.
have a guest for this one. Like there's no guest
Yes.
because we're just
Mm.
lonely on our
Just
the
own.
three of
Just
us.
three of us, Yeah,
Alone.
that's right. Yeah. But we did think that it would be good to have kind of a definition of it, or like, what are we actually talking about when we're talking about the experience of loneliness? What does that mean? So Rachel had some good insights from that. So I'll turn it over to you, Rach. You wanna
Yeah. So
illuminate us.
all right. Sorry. That's so obnoxious sounding. I hate that. Anyways, yeah. So I think so I read this book. It's called The Catholic Guide to Loneliness. I haven't read the whole thing, and I'm not like putting my stamp of like, yeah, I get this book. I'm approve of it. I don't know really that much about it, but I have found insights from it helpful. It's kind of like a strategic guide against loneliness, using like cognitive behavioral therapy and things like that. So in it, one of the definitions that they give of loneliness or a characteristic of it is it's kind of like the emotional equivalent of physical pain. So when you have a physical wound or you have some kind of malady physically, there's usually pain or discomfort associated with that. And that's a good thing because it's your body telling you there's something wrong, usually, if all of everything's working the way it should be. And in the book, it was just mentioning like loneliness can sometimes be like that for us emotionally, be telling us there's something wrong, maybe in our, socializing life or our relational world or something with our mental health. Like there may be something wrong. So it's good to not just brush it under the rug and not think anything of it. It's sometimes important to.
It's like a signal.
Yeah. And to like reflect on it a little bit, like what's really happening here.
Right.
The other thing I thought of, this is just from me, no psychologist, this is Rachel psychology.
Rachelology.
Rachelology. Oh yeah.
Yes.
I did it again. No. I don't like saying, oh yeah. It's so cheesy. Anyway, sorry, people who are listening.
Good. You're fine.
Thanks. Anyways,
nice.
Yeah, so I think there's like experiential loneliness where it's some experience of ours that makes us feel isolated, even if relationally we are actually very well connected. And then there's also relational loneliness where you actually are cut off from people and
right.
It's actually like you're alone, you're physically isolated. But I think both of those have very serious and difficult challenges that come with them.
Yeah.
Yeah, because I think there's something, I didn't do any, research before this episode, but I remember hearing something about like the concepts of aloneness and loneliness being different things. Like you can be alone and not feel lonely. And you can be alone and feel lonely, or you can be with someone and feel lonely, like people talk about, different, if you're in a relationship, there can be times of loneliness in that too, but specifically too, when I think about, just various people that I've known who talk about having some sort of experience where they feel like they're the only one that have gone through that experience. And maybe they haven't talked about it with anyone, so they don't know, or maybe that is just some sort of unique experience, but regardless of sort of anything objective, like here, it doesn't really matter what the objective is that the feeling is, I'm the only one who's been through this. And that can be, I think, really isolating, and kind of what you're talking about, Rachel.
Yeah. And it's true too that there's like some kind of solidarity in going through an experience with some like similar to somebody else and being able to talk about that, which is part of the whole reason why we wanted to like have this podcast and talk about suffering, is so that people realize, like, hear that they're not the only one who is experiencing something like that.
Yeah.
But because like even in the same way that our relationship with God is unique, right? Like there's nobody else who has the same experience of God that I do or that you do or whatever. I think like there's a certain element of that to suffering that's like inherent in it, even in people who might be suffering from in kind of the same way, like whether it's infertility, we had a recent episode on that, or in marriage or something, like, but none of that suffering is going to be exactly the same, even if it's similar and there are similar things that come up out of it, right? And so that too, I think, can contribute to a sense of loneliness, even when there's like some solidarity in that loneliness,
Yeah.
And I was just like, oh, you go. Sorry.
No, well, I was just thinking, as we're talking about this, like, okay, as Christians, we believe that Jesus has experienced all of the pain and suffering that we have, right? He can be with us in our suffering in a way that no one else can. And so I was trying to think about, well, when would Jesus have been alone? And I was like, oh yeah, like this was kind of like the pivotal, or the crux of him, like being on the cross, is like, God, my God, why have you abandoned me? Right. That utter aloneness from, Jesus is the second person of the Blessed Trinity. So feeling alone from however the Trinity works, but feeling alone from like himself / his father / his identity, as, and also feeling alone from all the people in the world, all his disciples who abandoned him and all that, like, just like incredible aloneness. So like, yeah, that this is the fact that he entered so deeply into that experience of being alone, to me also means, okay, like this is, that was a choice and something out of obedience, but knowing that this is an experience that all of us go through too. There must have been I mean, I don't know how all of this works, but I'm just thinking, a sort of intentionality with the way that God allowed, that Jesus was allowed to suffer, that has to do with this understanding that, oh yeah, being alone, like this is kind of the worst,
Yeah. One of my, the one story that I love that I feel like so human is when Jesus goes to pray in the garden, and then he comes back and all the disciples are asleep, and he's so mad at them. He's like, I asked you to like stay awake and pray with me, and like y'all fell asleep. Like I'm on the verge of this really, and I really feel for the Lord whenever I read that part of the story, because I think we all feel like that sometimes. We're just like, will no one just be with me in this? I think there's a desperation that can come in loneliness sometimes, where you're like grasping for someone to just give you some relief, to be with you in that experience. And it's like, there's no one, or you just don't experience that comfort, really.
Well, and it's like, it's so funny that there's like a desire for that, but at the same time, there's also some kind of like sometimes shame, or sometimes like feeling so distant from other people in that experience, that it's like you want to reach out to somebody, but at the same time, it's like there's something in you that's like, well, I can't, because how am I going to draw them into or how am I going to, like, how is that going to help me, or that they're not going to be able to understand what I'm experiencing now. So it's like, it would be more exhausting to just kind of draw them in and try and explain how I'm feeling, or to share this experience with them, than it is to just bear it on my own.
Yeah.
Man. Okay, so let's make it concrete then, shall we? In your own lives. Like, what does this look like for you? Like, what does this actually look like in your life, in your own experience?
The look on Rachel's face right now, there's just so much going on. If you're watching this on YouTube, you might have seen that, but
oh gosh,
I think Rachel, you should share first.
I was just thinking, as you were saying all this stuff, Erin, I was thinking, it's so funny. I think like we're kind of laughing and joking about it, because there's something so like, I don't know, current. I'm definitely experiencing loneliness in my life in different ways right now. And I think everybody is, like, to a certain extent. And, not to bring the pandemic back into things, but honestly, so many people were like physically isolated in that experience. I think it's something that's very close to a lot of us right now for different reasons, maybe. And it's so uncomfortable to talk about. It's so strange to me that it's so uncomfortable. Like I'm like nervous laughing through this whole episode because I'm so uncomfortable to talk about it. But I mean, obviously we think it's really important, and I definitely share that, sentiment. So, I mean, I will share. For me, I think, I think it has to do right now with my state in life more than anything. And it's not about I have talked about this before. It's not about being single. I'm a single person. It's not just because I'm not married, or I think because for me, my places, my constants have shifted completely. My friendships, my family, the structures of my life that in some ways have been the same for many, many years, especially my family. I think lots of good things. My siblings are getting married. And I think a lot of people, when they look at me, they would think like, oh, it's because your younger siblings are getting married and you're not married that you feel like this. Maybe that's true. Like, I don't want to completely dismiss that. There's some truth for that. But I think for me, it's not really about my siblings getting married and my friends getting married. I think it's like, it's again, a lack of knowing where I now fit in my world. And I've been very blessed with extremely supportive family and friends, and I still have that. But I'm not my parents' child the way that I was as a child. I'm not my sister or brother's older sister who needed to guide them through things the way that things were. I'm not my friend's bestie roommate person who, needs to be there. Like I don't fit those roles anymore. I still have very important places in all of those people's lives. But for me, the deconstruction of all those roles has left an incredible gap that is not filled, that God has chosen at this moment not to fill with some other human thing. And that has been an extremely, I will honestly would say like an excruciating experience of loneliness. And it's very physical. Like there's times that I don't feel it at all. And there's times that I almost feel like there's like a knife inside of me, like poking at me. And I can't even ignore the pain because it's so visceral. And I think, to be honest, I think God's given me a lot of grace, and I can feel that. Sometimes, you can feel grace just sort of carrying you through something, and it's not you. And I can feel that. And so I just rely on that with every, fiber of my being, because I know that is how God is working in my life right now. But I also see the possibility of cynicism very clearly. I haven't chosen it, and I think God has given me the grace not to. But I see the possibility of just the kind of pain that can come with loneliness can make you want to shut the door to all others.
Yeah. Right.
And it's so powerful. That urge is so powerful. And it's from the devil, honestly. Like that's not what we're supposed to do. But I feel it's such an empathy for people who do that, because it's a very, very difficult thing. And I think sometimes impossible to resist on your own without the grace of God, really.
Yeah.
Yeah. Wow. There's there's so much. Okay. So, full disclosure, we are recording in the evening and my brain sometimes shuts off, which is why I tend to write things down more. So as we were writing down, I was like, or as you were talking, I was like writing down a couple things. I'm like, yes, this is, I feel that. Yes, good. But one of the things, it's interesting when you talk about vocation, because loneliness was actually something for me that confirmed my vocation of consecrated virginity, in that I don't feel a loneliness when I'm alone. Or in there's not, it's like there wasn't a part of me that was feeling kind of, that knew I was created for, a union with another person in that way. Like there wasn't that same kind of ache that other people described. And there's I have a different sense of when I'm alone, that there's like a completeness there, which is such a gift. And really, honestly, it was like one of the things for me that was like really confirming in my vocation, because even though I mean, I should have relationships with other people, that is healthy. However, yeah, it's because it's different than living in a religious order, or or being married. Like there is something of like solitariness in the vocation in that sense. So that was like really important for me. But then when you talk about like where I now fit in my world, that's been kind of the experience of loneliness that has been for me in the last few years, like with chronic illness and with having all these new limitations. It's like looking around me and seeing like I don't have the capacity for these physical things. I don't have the capacity for this emotionally. I don't have the capacity for this mentally. I don't have it's like all of these things where I'm like, I feel like I'm trying to navigate the world that's like normal for other people, and it's not normal for me anymore, but it was normal for me anymore. So it's almost like this like loneliness because of what I experienced in the past that I don't experience anymore. And I feel like almost estranged from myself in some ways, like, which is such a weird feeling. But the thing of like choosing cynicism, so those are like two things that I wrote down. I was like, where I now fit in my world, and then choosing cynicism. And I'm like, because I feel that, because recently I've been really recognizing how much of a toll it takes on me when I'm sharing in somebody else's emotional burden, because my capacities are so limited. So depending on how I'm doing physically, if somebody else is going through something really emotionally heavy, like sometimes I just can't, like I can't, I don't have enough to enter in there,
Right.
And so then the tendency for me, like what I was thinking about is like, okay, but I actually still have to fight against just giving up on it altogether, because because it's tiring. Just
Hmm.
because it's tiring doesn't mean it's still good and necessary for me in my life, right? Like just
Right.
because there's
Hmm.
a lack there
Hmm.
doesn't mean that the Lord is not still asking me to go there, not at my own detriment, but
Right.
like even if it's painful and even if there are limitations that remind me all the time, because that's the thing is like these same limitations, like he's still asking me to go there, but he's
Yeah.
asking me to go directly to a place where I'm like face to face with my
Yeah.
limitations all the time, which
Yeah.
is
Yeah.
like, and there's like a loneliness in that, even like trying to explain it to
Hmm.
other people, like how is it that it's hard for me to talk on the telephone is a weird thing, like it is exhausting for me. Like it will put me into a flare, which sounds crazy,
Hmm.
but like it does. So how do I even
Yeah.
explain that to people? Because how would you even think that that would ever be something that would be like would
Hmm.
Like
knock somebody out for a
difficult.
day?
Right. Yeah.
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 Yes,
Right.
like that's insane, you know? So there's
Hmm.
like there's such a loneliness in that too.
Hmm. Hmm.
But yeah, so that's kind of been my experience in the last little while. What about
Yeah.
you, Nicole?
Yeah. It's funny, like I think a lot of my life, um, I I definitely have experienced loneliness in many forms. Had a lot of like even as a child, like had friends move away or different things, and for me, I think it turned into a pattern of so sometimes friends move away and sometimes feeling rejected by friends, high school and junior high
Mm,
and when there's all this stuff,
Hmm.
right?
Hmm.
And I remember moments thinking like, okay, well, if I don't have people who like want to be with me, I'll just be really good at school so that at least they like respect me and or something, as if that's
Right.
some substitute for
mm,
friendship. And of course, there's all stuff that I've worked through and all of that. But it is really interesting right now, having moved to a different country, a different city, a new job, new people everywhere. My first few months in Nashville, there was a large sense of me of like, this is great. I have my job. It's great. And, Nathan, my boyfriend, is also here and I get to see him. And so we have that. And of course, realistically, that stays up a huge chunk of loneliness, right? But just having someone else there.
Right.
So that is a gift for sure. Um, but I don't have like I'm meeting people, and we have a good small group and we're getting to know them, but I don't have any close female friends that I can just like really open up and talk to about the real stuff, right? Because of those kinds of friendships, I think are a gift, and they don't come very
yeah.
often, and they also just take time to develop. If you
Yeah.
just try to go in and share all the deep stuff right away, it's just weird.
It's weird.
Yeah,
Yeah.
you alienate yourself way more.
Yeah, how do you
Like,
Yeah.
exactly
you're gonna be
how to
that
create
girl.
loneliness for yourself?
Yeah, that's
Um,
right.
so, but
What not to
I
do. Yeah.
Yeah, but there's a big part of me that I didn't even realize that I was feeling lonely because I just threw myself into my work, and I do love my work, and it
Mm,
was just like, this is great. And if and I'm with students, I'm teaching 6 classes, so I've got all these students and they're lovely, and I have my coworkers, so there's a sense in which, well, I have lots of people around and it's great. But I was in Toronto 2.5 weeks ago, and I got to see these ladies in person, my
Mhm.
podcast ladies. We actually, we're always on Zoom together. We actually got to meet up at a Tim Hortons in person. It was great for
Yeah.
at least a little bit.
yes.
And anyway, and when I went back to Nashville after that week, the loneliness hit me like a ton of bricks. Like I just didn't realize how much I had, in a sense, I think it was sort of a protective or coping mechanism where it was like that part of me that is yearning for that deep connection. I just like shut it down and did my work and did my job because that's how I've learned to function in much of my life, right? I just work really hard and you immerse yourself in your work and you don't feel the loneliness. But then I did, and I just felt off that whole week. I felt like, and it was a feel, I think for me, experienced the loneliness as feeling adrift,
Mm.
um, feeling kind of ungrounded, feeling like I was not really sure what's where I am.
Mhm.
Um, and I think that that's something that for me was like, it's the easy thing for me to do, as I said, for loneliness is to just shut it down so I don't feel it. But for me to actually let myself feel that and then accept it and then
Mm,
and then be patient with the time that it takes to meet people, and then also take actions to
Yeah.
initiate building friendships and actually do those practical things. And that's which is, I don't know, I find that hard sometimes, but trying to do that, and But yeah, that, I don't know, that's kind of where I'm at right now too, of just like, okay, realizing, oh yeah, I am lonely. I guess I can admit that now. You know, I did not even think about it for the first couple months. So, yeah.
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 Yeah. Which is like it's interesting because even thinking about that, I'm like, okay, well, it kind of makes sense then if we have like again coming back to like this I don't know, like whether it's shame or whether it's like wondering or whether it's something like that, because in loneliness there's this like built-in contradiction of like we were created for relationship, like we have a
Mm-hmm.
desire for that, we were created
Mhm.
to be in relationship, like in communion with other people, not just in like mall buddies with other people, you know what I mean, like
Oh, oh gosh, it's my nightmare. I can't do that. I am not somebody, to be fair, it's not like a virtue thing. I cannot have
yeah.
like surface level relationships. I
Mhm.
literally,
Mhm.
it's exhaust.
Right.
That to me is the most exhausting. Like
Yeah.
I could be, I
Mm.
think that's actually the most lonely kind of reality for me, is to have
Mhm.
no deep relationships at all. And to like, you know, relationships that are going somewhere, like you said, Nicole, you can't start off the bat being like, so
Right.
what's your
Yeah, yeah.
deepest, darkest
Yeah,
secret?
yeah,
Yeah.
You know,
that's
you
right.
can't,
Well,
you
I mean,
can't do
again,
that.
you can if you
I mean, you
just want
can't.
to alienate yourself from,
That's right.
you know, that's
So
fine.
don't
Yeah, yeah, yeah,
do
yeah,
that
yeah,
if you
yeah,
want friends.
yeah,
So it takes time,
Yeah.
but like
yeah.
friendships that are not on that trajectory, that are just literally about nothing,
Mhm.
you know,
Mm.
really,
Yeah, yeah. Mhm.
they are very
And
difficult.
because we're not created for that, right? Like
No.
it's
Right.
not, it's because it's not touching any of the deep places in us that we're longing for, like that we know we're created for communion for. But then
Yeah.
it's kind of like I feel like for me anyways, it kind of confirms the lies that I hold on to when I'm
Mm.
feeling lonely in places, because then I'm
Mm.
like, okay, I can't be in communion with people here because there's something wrong with me.
Right.
Like
Mm,
there's something that's unpalatable about me. There's
right.
something that
Yeah.
is like I'm not good enough in this way, and that's why I'm feeling lonely here because nobody can be with me in
Mm-hmm.
this because
Yeah.
I'm broken.
Mm-hmm.
I'm wrong.
So
I'm,
yeah,
you
yeah.
know?
Oh,
Yeah.
that is such
Interesting.
a,
You know,
yeah. Sorry.
oh no. Well, I'm just thinking like how quickly the lies come in with
Mhm.
loneliness. Like
Yeah.
that seems to be a really
Mm.
huge, I don't know, like one of the biggest woundedness where as soon as you're lonely, it's like attack. It's like such a vulnerable thing, you know?
Yeah.
And it makes me
Totally.
think of, I'm like at the beginning, Adam and Eve, right? And what does God say? It is not good for man to be alone.
Yeah.
And so he
Yes.
creates Eve, right? So just that thing of like, that this was like we are not meant to be alone. It's not good
No.
for us to be alone.
Mhm.
We need each other, and but that there's something fundamental about what it means to be human, and that when we are feeling alone, and when there is that lie, like we are, because we are not alone. Fundamentally,
Yeah.
we are not alone. Like Christ is with us, and Christ is, human.
Mhm.
And but when we're feeling that the loneliness, and even on whatever continuum of objective aloneness and the subjective loneliness, wherever we're at with that, I think that is a time where like I experience that for sure. Like, well, I'm alone in this new place because, well, I'm terrible at making friends, or well, no
Mm.
one's going to like me, or whatever it is, like there's something fundamentally wrong with me. And that is why I'm alone, rather than because I just moved to a new country and I don't know anyone yet.
Yeah.
But like, why do I
Yeah.
assume that it's right? And it's like, well, I automatically assume
We
that it's
totally go
because,
to those the most
yeah,
like
Like the craziest, but
craziest
it
things.
seems
Yeah.
so plausible. It doesn't seem crazy
Yeah.
at all. Like you're
Yeah.
like, that is
Yeah.
the reason why, you know, I'm
Yep.
a dirtbag of a human being and nobody, and
Yeah.
I smell and no one wants to come near me.
Yeah.
That
You
is
know,
an
like that's
amazing sentence. I'm a dirtbag of a human being.
great. I feel like that's like what we think. Yeah.
Yeah.
Fundamentally,
Totally
that's
though. Yep.
what we think.
Yeah.
But it's not true. That we're telling you, if you're
Yep.
listening, that is not true.
No.
Just to be clear, we are
That's
not
right.
confirming that. We are
That's right.
rejecting.
Yeah.
That's right.
And
Yep.
and maybe even like sharing something here, if I can think about moments, because you can feel alone in relationship, right? You can be in a relationship, dating, married, and
Yep.
feel alone. And I think that because there's going to be times where you hurt each other, there's going to be times where you wound each other, and all of that. And I can think of specific moments where there, there's moments of hurt or whatever is happening, feeling lonely in the relationship or whatever it is, just working, just stuff, the stuff of life, right?
Mhm, mhm.
But allowing myself, and I think somebody else had shared that this is something they did, and so I tried it, and I was like, oh, this is beautiful. But like thinking in those moments when that pang of hurt is hitting you, of just like thinking of Jesus on the cross, like
Mhm.
thinking of him suffering and being alone on the cross. because that, I don't know, for me, that it kills all the lies, you know?
Mhm.
Because then I know in that moment that I am not alone in whatever it is, you know?
Yeah.
Yeah.
And then I'm not acting out of a place of, when the lies come in and then you get afraid and you get insecure and then you start,
Yeah.
not being loving, right? But if we can remember that we're not
Yeah.
alone, then it equips us to love in those moments of aloneness, I
Because
think.
Yes.
there's tons of those times. I mean, sometimes I think we look through scripture and it's like we have the go-to scripture passages for things which are totally good and totally valid, you know? But then sometimes even when you're talking about loneliness now, I'm like, I can think of so many times in scripture where Jesus was probably lonely.
Yeah.
Like
Yeah.
when he goes and he tries to do miracles in his hometown and he can't do them because nobody has faith in him. Like how
Yeah.
like that would have been like an experience of like you're the Messiah and
Mm,
like nobody they don't see you, you know, like
yeah.
there's like a rupture in that kind of communion and understanding of like who he is, and like that would have been lonely too, you know. And I'm sure if we look through scriptures like with that kind of lens, you know, like where is
Yeah.
Jesus lonely, there would be so many times that he probably experienced that.
Totally. Yeah.
Yeah.
Mm.
I think when you picked up on something, Nicole, when you're talking about not being able to be loving, because I think that, and that's kind of associated with the cynicism that Erin, you
Mm,
and I were like kind of,
Mm.
vibing on cynicism. I think that it is really important because that is a trick of the devil, I think, to really isolate us further in that pain,
mhm.
which
Yeah.
then causes us to really become embittered and really start to hurt people around us. Um, so that's really, I think, an important thing just to be aware of, not to like beat
Mhm.
ourselves up over, but to be aware, like what is the kind of person that I want to be
Hmm.
in this experience of pain? Who do I want to become? How do I want this pain to shape my life? Do I want it to like literally cripple me, or do I want it to strengthen me? And I
Hmm.
think there is some amount of agency, whatever that is, even if it's like the tiniest bit of agency that you have to say, like, no, I don't want to be disfigured by this pain. I want to
Mhm.
be, purified by it. I think we
Mhm.
have to
Yeah.
exercise that wherever it is, find that small like breath
Hmm.
of agency and just do
Hmm.
it.
Yeah.
Um,
Yeah.
yeah. There's one other thought I had about the desperation, depending on where you are on that spectrum of loneliness. I think sometimes you're on like emergency level. Like if you
Hmm.
are at the point where you cannot reflect on your loneliness, you cannot see it, you cannot think about it in a helpful way,
Hmm.
that is like ER emergency, and you need to get yourself to like some outlet of grace. And I really think, I mean, maybe there's other aspects like mental health things like that you have to look
Mhm.
into as well, and I really
Hmm.
don't want to downplay that because that can be really, really important.
Yeah.
Hmm.
But just from a relationship with God perspective, like adoration, if you need to, online adoration, confession, just get yourself in front of Jesus in
Mhm.
whatever way is accessible to you.
Yeah.
And sometimes, like, I've been in places like this in my life before where you don't have the words, you don't have anything, you just have pain, and you just have to sit there and just give that to him and be with him until you don't have the strength to anymore, or you have a job
Hmm.
or whatever you have to
Yeah.
get up and
Yeah.
go to, and life happens. But I think it's really, really critical to just emphasize, like, yeah, we are not meant to be alone, and the Lord
Mm.
does not want us to experience this pain without
Yeah.
him. He has something for us, so
Hmm.
but we have to go to
Yeah.
him for that.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Well, and even thinking about like how we like for example, there's like a pain clinic in Toronto. So if anybody is interested, if you have chronic pain or some kind of chronic condition, it's called TAPME, Toronto Area Pain Management Institute, and it's been super great. So I'm doing like a program right now called ACT, which is a specific kind of like therapy.
Acceptance
Um,
and commitment
Accept,
therapy.
yes, acceptance and
Mhm.
commitment therapy. That's exactly it. But one of the things we talked about today was diffusion techniques, which
Mhm.
is really like It's interesting to look at it from the Christian context, because some of it I'm like, oh yeah, this is good. Like this is a Christian, and like some of it doesn't quite map, and some of it like you have to kind of tweak a little bit. But the thing that I found was interesting that we talked about today was like thoughts and how closely we hold thoughts to our chest, right? And
Mhm.
so they had us do this exercise where we look at, and it's even going through things and seeing like, okay, I'm having this emotion. What is the thought behind this emotion? So like for me, if I'm thinking about like I don't know, my incapacities, then it could be like my thought sometimes is like I should be doing more. Like my emotion is like anxiety that I'm feeling or
Mm.
loneliness or whatever. And I'm like I should be doing more. And so then I have this like thought of like so the thought might be something like I should be doing more because what I'm doing right now is not enough for me to be loved or
Mm.
whatever it is, right? So they
Right.
had us write down this sentence on like a sticky note, put it literally on our foreheads, and then
Okay.
like try and like absorb this. They're like, believe as much as you can that this is the truth about you, that
Huh.
this sentence is like, you know, and then they said, okay, now take it off and put it on your hand, and now like look at it and say like I'm thinking right now this thought about whatever, and then they said hold your hand way away, and they're like okay, now think about the thought and look at it from far away and be like, oh, I noticed that I'm thinking about da 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 da, which is very,
Huh.
which I
Mm.
found like was actually so helpful, because
Mhm.
we talk, and this is what we talked about, which I was like, yes, this is totally like Christian fundamental 101,
Mm.
is like those thoughts sometimes become our identity, you know? And it's like so easy when we're thinking about those things and we're like, okay, no, I shouldn't think this, so I'm just going to, you know, focus on the you, Lord. But it's not like, I mean, when has it actually worked that those
Yeah, yeah, yeah.
thoughts
Mm.
have just like stopped because we've willed them to stop, you know?
Right.
When
Right.
has an experience stopped because we've willed it to stop? Like it,
Mm.
so I like that was one thing I was like, I'm gonna use that. And I feel like already even
Yeah.
that's been helpful for me to see, to have some kind of objectivity even about what I believe about myself
Yeah.
in those times, or what the experience is like, and to notice like that actually a thought doesn't have to, like I don't have to be defined by a certain experience that I'm having
Right.
Right.
or
I
that I'm
love that.
experiencing. Yeah.
You know, and sorry, I think this is really great. And just like as a side note, because I ACT was one of the techniques that I had to study in grad
Oh,
school a little bit.
yeah.
And one of the things that we learned when they're talking about diffusion was you can take that thought, like you said, you wrote that sentence like on a sticky note.
Mhm.
And then, so I like what they were doing, like put it on your forehead, then put it on your hand, and then put it far away, right?
Yep.
Another technique is to choose like the voice of some sort of TV character that you know really, really well, like Yoda, or I don't know, like some sort of character has a really distinctive and like weird voice, and then say the sentence to yourself like in their voice,
Yeah.
Oh, I
just to
like
like,
that.
you know, and I
You
just,
are unlovable.
yeah, exactly.
No, it
And
would
then you're
be
like,
unlovable you are.
yeah, yeah.
Wait. Right?
You know, and then you're like, oh, that's ridiculous, you know,
Yeah,
or
Yeah.
something,
totally.
just diffuses it. But anyways, just
Yeah,
that's
yeah,
a fun
yeah,
note. But
yeah,
I think
Yeah.
that's so, you know, I love that you're saying that, Erin, and because I think there's a temptation with loneliness too to become like just self-pitying, right? And just be
Yeah.
like, this is who I am. I'm unlovable and I'm alone and I'm always going to be alone and poor me and everything I want to feel so, or something, to really identify with that. But like what you're saying too is like we don't have to. We don't
No.
have to identify with the
Mhm.
lies that come in
Yeah,
when we are feeling lonely,
yeah. And
you
we don't have
know,
to double
and
down on it. Like, we don't
No.
right.
have to be like, okay, fine, this is my experience. And so
Exactly.
then I'm
Yeah.
going to protect myself from having like a deeper experience of what I'm experiencing by like cutting people
Yeah.
off or not letting them in or.
Yeah.
Right. Right.
Mhm.
I do think that we have to accept, like that acceptance part too is really important.
Yeah.
Like you talked about, Nicole, like I am lonely, like just recognizing it. So I think
Yeah.
that sometimes, because I'm, yeah, my classic sort of escape route technique of like, oh, pain, whatever, I'm just gonna watch 10 hours of Netflix and I'll be fine. Like, that situation,
Mhm.
it does make it go away. So I think sometimes you just have to be like, okay, I'm in pain. This is what's happening. This is where we're at.
Yeah.
And now what? Now where? And I think, and not now what in the sense of like, how do I fix it? But now what, as in like, what's my response? Because that's really all we can do. Like to a certain extent, we have to trust that God will take care of us in terms of the
Mhm.
pain. But we can't necessarily control that. Sometimes we can. Like, I think that the stuff you guys are saying, and if in the book that I was reading by Kevin Vost or whatever, which maybe people should read, it tells you there are things that we can do to decrease the pain that might work and can work because of certain ways that our brain operates and things like this.
Yeah.
And I think those are really important. We should pursue those. But in the absence of those things working, I think we still have to recall that we can respond. We do have some freedom here. And I think there is a level of responsibility that is freeing to take on. Like, we can say, I am responsible for how I behave given this pain. I am responsible for whether or not I choose to love in whatever ways I'm called to given this situation. I think that can be a really good thing. And, not the voice of the accuser. I think it's really important because that's the devil being like, well, look at you, you're not taking responsibility for all the things. Like, don't listen to that voice. But if there's whatever part of you that's able to say like, okay, I don't know, I'm going to put on some lipstick today, or like, I'm going to, pick something small, maybe like the smallest way that you can exercise that choice, that response, that free response, and do that,
Yeah. And even if it's like, because I was thinking about this too last week so I gave a talk at a whatever worship thing earlier this week, and it was such an experience of grace for me, because I realized that like that in that, like, it was so clear that the Lord was present during the talk, but then also even just the ability to like to hear praise and worship and to like praise the Lord in front of the Blessed Sacrament. I was like, my soul has atrophied during this time. Like, I feel it, and it wasn't really until I was around other people like that I could really feel it like that. And like, yeah, and so to see, like, even right now, if I'm doubting, like, what am I worth? Like, what is my contribution to anything aside from just sitting in a chair and like knitting all day? Like, what do you want me to do, Lord? Like, what, like, what are my gifts, or whatever the case may be. Like, even giving him, I feel like that experience was like giving him just a little sliver of like asking him, like, this is my deep loneliness right now, and what do you want to say about it? Like, what do you want to do about it? And even if it's something like little, like, I made a little step to go out and be around people and say yes to doing a thing, and it was like the Lord transformed it into like a reverberation of grace that is still present days later.
That's amazing. Yeah. I love that. And I mean, I'll share too of just like this last couple, so I went to Toronto a couple weeks ago, came back and was like, oh shoot, I'm lonely. But it was, I feel like there was a gift or a grace to just be like, okay, well, actually I can't even take the credit. There's not a grace for me to go out and say I'm going to go make friends, but it just started happening. Like I went to this we had like a Wednesday morning, what do they call it, prayer and pastries for Belmont faculty and staff, and we get together and like pray, and which is really cool. And I'd never been before, and I went and I didn't know anybody, and it was super awkward, and I'm like, but I ended up talking to a couple people and who work in the library, and had a nice chat. And I didn't really think about it after, but got an email later in the day from one of them, and she was like, hey, she'd also just moved there a couple of weeks ago, and he's like, you've only been here a couple months, and I've been here a couple of weeks. Like, you want to have a picnic lunch sometime at work, And I was just like, yeah, that's great, and that was just such a wonderful like thing. And we still haven't yet because just scheduling and stuff, but that'll happen, I think, next week or something. And then later that week, I through a couple conversations of people, I remembered that there was another new faculty who I had been meaning to reach out to, because I thought, she was like, she's new, I'm new, we're both not originally from the States, like we should hang out, So I finally texted her and was like, do you want to hang out sometime? And she was very excited too. And so now we're, so just these little things, but it's like, I don't know. I can't take the credit for that. It's not like I was like, all right, I'm going to now take initiative in my agency
10-point plan
because but I think there was a little bit of, at least for me, an openness where I came to the Lord and was like, okay, Lord, help me find friends, and like little things started happening in that direction, and so I think there is something to that of just like you're saying, Erin and Rachel, they're just like coming before the Lord with it and being like, all right,
Yeah.
we've discovered that I'm lonely. Now what?
Yeah, what do I do?
Yeah.
The book that I have now mentioned 3 times that I haven't fully read.
It's
But
awesome.
it clearly has some value. But he talks about virtue as a remedy in a way to holiness, to loneliness, not to holiness. That's wrong.
Nice. Okay.
See, I told you, I don't know why. It's so weird. Anyways, a remedy to loneliness. And he said, like just the like prudence, temperance, like making sure, because literally a friend of mine and I were just talking about loneliness today, actually, probably because we were going to record this episode and she knew that. And I was like, cookies are a remedy to loneliness. And she's like, yeah, but then you you have all these extra calories and pounds, and then you like really sugar highs. And I don't know. I was like, okay, cookies can be a remedy to loneliness, also a danger in times of loneliness. And I think, the virtue of temperance, he literally talks about, he's like, people can tend to eat things and drink things and do things that are bad for them as remedies. And so when we try to think virtuously and we're like, well, what's actually good for me? I think that's an important question too. Like you were talking about meeting people, that's one good. Okay. If you don't have the strength to do that, like, do you have the strength to work out? Do you have the strength to read something that you've never read before? Like what are the faculties in you that can be developed and grown that are good? How do you nourish yourself,
Yeah. And even it's okay, maybe I can't do all these things, but do I have the capacity to curl up in my bed and watch Netflix and whisper up a tiny prayer of, Jesus, I'm lonely, please fix it.
I love that.
Yeah. That was my spiritual director. Last time I had spiritual direction, she said, like, sometimes the most powerful prayer that you can ever pray to the Lord is, I can't.
Yeah.
And Nicole and I were talking about that one time. Like, and like, that's so profound too, because it's so real. Because sometimes it's exactly like you say, Rachel, like you are in like emergency room mode. Like it is like you just can't, like there's zero capacity for
right.
But the Lord always has capacity for everything.
Well, and using the ER, analogy, if the Lord is like our doctor, our healer, when somebody has to go to the ER, they don't come in, you're expecting them, you're like, well, why don't you try helping yourself first and then come to the you're coming because you're in an emergency.
Exactly.
And you're supposed to be vulnerable and you're supposed to not be able to do anything and let the doctor do their thing, right?
Yeah.
So can we do that with the Lord? Can we just admit, like, I don't know what to do right now, and I'm and then just come.
Yeah.
Just keep going, honestly. Like just keep going till and you'll know when you're like, okay, I'm in a different place now. I'm not in ER mode anymore. I don't need to come here in the same vein anymore.
Yep.
But I think we can be ashamed of that being that low. And I think it's really important. That's a trick of the devil. I think we shouldn't be ashamed. Just go to the Lord. And I can't, if that's your prayer, that's your prayer, and honestly, like I've been there so often. I'm there in some ways now in my life, to be honest. And I think that it is very comforting. There is real grace there. It's not a solution to, like, God isn't necessarily going to fix everything right away in your life, but he will be there with you, and that will change things. That will help you. It will give you perseverance and courage that you need to keep going. So yeah.
And it is a lie. Like, it's an absolute lie from the pit of hell, from the evil one, that this will be forever. Like, even when you're talking about things like depression or something like that, like it is a huge burden in the sense that it feels like it will be forever. Like it feels like it will never change. And it's so convincing in that moment that it's like burying, falling under the burden of that. And it is not true, because you will die one day and you will not be lonely in death. Like,
in
so
heaven,
like,
in heaven,
if it was like, I mean, and God willing, we're not lonely for our whole lives and never experiencing like,
that's right,
all of those kind of things. But even in the most remotest of cases that we experience that loneliness extending in our lives somehow, like it will not be forever.
No,
it will not be.
And in the light of sort of offering, because you can offer up that loneliness. I know that's sometimes it's the worst thing to hear. So if you're in that place right now, you're like, oh gosh, I hate
Offer it
you.
up.
I'm so sorry.
Yeah.
But yeah, I think I want to say that, I think in my experience, I am feeling with this episode, the reality that many people are in of like very, very deep loneliness. And we like, I think we can be empathetic
I'm sorry, my
towards
light
that.
just keeps going on.
Oh, you're fine.
It's like, yeah, it's
Erin looks
very-
like she's in a haunted house. It's fine.
It does.
Yeah. Mhm.
Well, it's
Sorry.
stopped now. It looks
Go
like.
ahead. You were saying
So
something very profound.
empathy for lonely people.
Yeah.
No, but because it's an experience we all have in a very real way. So
Mhm.
it's not like we're like, oh,
Yeah.
that's really sad. Like we get it. And I think that it's very important to know that we are praying for you. Like I am going to be remembering this intention just for people who are suffering through really intense times of loneliness in their lives for whatever reason. Over this next week in a very, very specific way, I'm going to be praying for you, because I think it's really important that, you are not alone. Like those prayers are from like a sister in Christ who cares for you because you are a child of God, and whether we know you or we don't know you, and that's where you're living, it's very important. God loves you and he wants you to know that. And so if the only way you can know that is to know that we are going to be praying for you right now, in a very specific way, know that we will be. So yeah.
Yeah.
Amen.
Amen.
Beautiful. Thanks, Rach. This is good. Even if you want Rachel to pray for you by name.
Yeah.
Only Rachel, not the other, not any of I'm just kidding.
We'll pray.
If
Send
you
us a
want that,
message.
if you want the
Yeah.
prayers, let us know. We'd love to.
Aaron's light is going on
My
and off
light
again.
is seriously like my leg is propped up against the wall trying to get the plug to stay in. Anyways, Nicole, would you like to share with us your God wink? This
Sure.
just dumped my
Erin's just
microphone.
falling apart over there.
Lord have mercy.
Erin, we love you a lot.
No, we do.
Sure, I'll share God wink. Yeah, this is just a little thing, but this week, so a couple weeks ago, I started spiritual direction with someone here just outside of Nashville, and it was wonderful, and I'm really excited to get back on the spiritual direction train again. So she gave me a little booklet, and it's a bunch of scriptures. Like basically, it's a whole year, and every day there's a scripture that you can meditate on, and they're all having to do with the love of God. And it relates to how in Ignatian spiritual exercises, you spend the first, very long chunk of time meditating on the love of God.
Right.
And so I've been going through and reading them. And the very first day that I did it, it was just like, there was so much consolation and it was wonderful. And then every day since then, it's been like fine, but I just like that first day was enough where I'm like, I think this is good. I think I'm supposed to do this. So anyways, so I'm on like, I don't know, day 8 or something. So a couple of days ago, I read, it was Psalm 23, the Lord is my shepherd, I shall not want. He makes me lie down in green pastures. I do this again. He makes me lie down in green peppers.
When we were talking about this God wink, Nicole totally said that. He makes me lie down in green peppers.
Yeah.
And I'm dying.
If that means something, I don't know. I feel like, is that like a spiritual message to someone
It
out
just
there?
means
That's
I
right.
always buy
Peppers.
green peppers and I cook chili and stuff. Anyway, okay. He makes me lie down in green pastures, leads me beside still waters. He restores my soul. Though I should walk through the valley of the shadow of death, I shall fear no evil, for you are with me. Your rod and your staff, my comfort and my hope.
Okay, just for everybody's reference, if you're watching the video, you'll know this, but Nicole has just said all of these things memorized. So that's pretty good.
But this is why. This is the
Yeah.
thing where I got to Psalm 23 and I'm like, oh, Psalm 23. It's like overused. It's on
the
every
green
like
peppers one.
nice. Okay, not the green peppers one. That's my own personal version. My own translation of scripture. If you want my Bible, it'll be $55 plus tax. All right. Anyways. Yeah. So, but it's like, it's for me, I'm like, oh, it's like, what is it? It's like just overdone or something, every song is about something. It's just like every poster and it's like, oh, Psalm 23, that's really nice. But it was good. And I read it and it was nice, And I just happened to be feeling really stressed that day and kind of down. And anyways, then I got to my car on my way to work, and I guess I had left the car on a Christian music station in Nashville. And what comes on the radio but a song that is Psalm 23, you know? That was like what was on when I got into my car. And at first I was like, well, obviously, because everything is Psalm 23, you know, this isn't God. This is just like statistical probability at work, you know? But then it was just, I let myself be curious and open and listen to the words and was remember like, oh yeah, this is beautiful. Like this is, you know, and
this is the word of God. It is actually
like the Lord being, come on.
Yeah.
Give Psalm 23 a chance.
Yeah, basically, you know, my kind of cynical thing. So
love it.
So good.
Anyway, so that was my God wink.
Yeah. I think Psalm 23 will always be the green pepper song for me now.
The green pepper song?
Just, yeah, it's just it now.
Full circle. You know, we talked about worship lyrics at the beginning. Now, every time you hear it, you are welcome in the Thicket podcast listeners.
Yep, that's great.
Anyway. Okay, that reminds me of one episode from last year where you talked about being an octopus in a field.
Right? Oh yeah, that's right. I feel like it was we talked about being single. Yeah. Mm-hmm. Sometimes you feel. Yeah, that's right.
I'm gonna make a drawing of
the octopus.
Well, okay,
green peppers.
And this is octopus and green peppers. This is bringing me back to the beginning of our episode as well, because I think, Erin, when you held up your blanket, I was like, is it an octopus? And then I never explained why I asked if your blanket was an octopus. So Erin, one of the things that she's been making is these little like yarn
I have it
octopi. And they're really cute.
They really are. So, oh my gosh, we should start some In the Thicket merch that's just like octopus and green peppers, like just a picture of
that could be our theme,
right?
Oh, look at it. It's so cute. It has a little bow tie and it has little eyes. Oh,
like little cute, and his little feet.
It's so cute.
Yeah.
You guys, did you watch it's very, Erin, can you give me an octopus for Christmas? That's wonderful.
Oh my gosh. Yeah, I would love to send
Great.
you one. Yes.
Excellent.
Totally. Okay, so if any listeners would like to have an octopus, send
$55 plus tax.
Envelope.
Man.
So good.
There's a really good documentary about octopi and octopus.
Oh, I haven't seen it.
It won an award this year at the Academy Awards documentaries. I think it's on, I don't know where it is. I forget what it's called. I forget what it's called.
My Friend the Octopus.
Something like that. It's my octopus teacher. Look it up.
Octopus teacher. Okay, well, I'll put it in the show notes. So as usual, all of our show notes, just for anyone who's listening, all of our show notes, we do have them on our website, which is inthethicketpodcast.com. So if you're ever looking for something that we're talking about during an episode, it is there with the link.
Resources on loneliness, octopus documentaries.
Yes, that's right. And actually, I have a more serious contribution for our show notes, because you're talking about this. Your spiritual director gave you this scripture exercise, right? And when I was looking today, I did a little bit of research for our episode, and I was looking at like Catholic remedies for loneliness, like what's out there, you know. And the Sisters of Life have a litany called the Litany of Let Love, and we'll post a link to it. It's really beautiful. It's like it's asking God to let love act on you. So like, I'll just read you a couple lines. It's like that I let love reveal who I am. That I let love define me, that I let love with courage and hope, that I let love forgive me. And love is capital L. So love is really God. That's who the litany is. And there's really beautiful responses as well. So we'll post a link to that. And one more really cool litany is the Litany of the Love of God, which I found, which was written by Pope Pius VI. And it's literally like, it's so beautiful. It's like, with all my heart, I love thee, oh my God. With all my soul, with all my mind. And it just kind of is a litany of us telling God that we love him, which, you know, clearly Ignatius says is a good idea. And I think he knew stuff about stuff. So, you know, those were the things that I found actually when I was like Catholic, like remedies for loneliness, were these like prayers about the love of God. So, you know,
I feel like we should send out like a degree or a certification or something. Like if you've listened to this episode, you now are like,
you're a loneliness
therapy. You have these things. That's right. You can go and train other people in how to be lonely now. So that's good. Right. I mean, how to not be lonely.
$35.95
for $55 plus tax.
Oh yeah, right.
Yeah, that's right. Yeah.
As I was saying that, I was like, why am I not saying more? Why am I low cutting?
My translation of the Bible. My green peppers.
That's right. This episode is only costing you all $100 each.
Yes. This episode has been brought to you by octopi and green peppers.
Joking.
We're joking. Totally free. Don't send us any money. Okay.
And on that note, I think we've been here for
Oh my
like
gosh.
10 hours, like the longest episode we've recorded
I
this year. But you know
know,
what?
it's so
Because we
good.
love you guys.
Yep.
Yeah.
That's right.
It's an episode on
Amen.
loneliness. We can hang out with you a little longer
That's right.
today.
That's right.
Exactly. Exactly. Yeah. Amen. All right, dear listeners. Well, we will be in your Apple
Ears.
Podcasts or Spotify
Earbuds.
list or ears and whatever next week, and we look forward to it. And we hope that something from this sat in a really beautiful way on your heart this week, and we are praying for you for sure, especially those who are feeling extra lonely right now.
Mhm.
I love you very much.
Love you.
God bless you.
Bye.
Bye.
Wait, can I just say?
Yes,
I'm
please.
sorry. I'm sorry, when you said something sat in a really lovely way on your heart, I just pictured everyone's heart as like these couches and a really big butt just like sitting on them. Just something.
Yes,
Just a
we-
really nice. It's really late. We're really tired.
We need to go to bed,
There you
everyone.
go.
All right.
All right, bye.
All right. Bye, everybody.
Bye.
Thank you for joining us for this episode of In the Thicket. If you like what you hear, give us a rating and hit that subscribe button. We have new episodes every Monday with more stories and honest conversations about life when the going gets rough and the hope and humor amidst it all. We'd love for you to join our community on Instagram and Facebook at In the Thicket Podcast. While you're there, let us know how we can pray for you. God bless and see you next week.